Welcome, everyone, to this deep dive. Today, we're exploring something really quite profound. It's this idea of accessing states of awareness, often linked with psychedelics like psilocybin.
Right. Those deep, sometimes life-changing experiences.
Exactly. But the question is, can we get there, or somewhere similar, without actually taking anything? Is there an internal path?
Yeah, and it's framed almost like looking for the most direct route, the quickest way in, but one that's genuine, not some kind of bypass. A shortcut that isn't really a cheat.
Shortcut that's not a cheat. I like that. And the core concept that emerges is, well, it's simple, but huge.
It really is. It's about shifting focus completely. Instead of looking for an external substance to give you the state.
You become the state.
Precisely. You
Awesome.
Cultivate it from within. Stop looking outside, basically.
Which turns everything on its head, doesn't it? It implies these states aren't just chemical reactions triggered from the outside.
Exactly. It suggests they're actually innate potentials, part of our human capability, maybe. Things we can access through practice.
Okay, so if that's the premise, that we can become the statement, how do we actually do that? What are the practical paths?
Well, several key methods are laid out. The first one, and it feels pretty fundamental, is breathwork.
Breathing. Seems simple, but there's obviously more to it here.
Oh, definitely. We're talking deep, rhythmic breathing, conscious breathing. The suggestion is something like at least 11 minutes a day.
11 minutes. Okay.
And the way it's described is quite evocative, like learning to breathe like a god remembering itself.
Wow, okay. That's poetic. So it's not just about getting oxygen in.
Not at all. The idea is that this kind of breathing does much more. It massively oxygenates the brain, for one.
Right.
It's also suggested it helps clear out stored trauma, energetic blockages,
Interesting. And there's a connection made to, well, psychedelic-like experiences.
Yes, quite directly. It's proposed that this deep conscious breathing can actually stimulate the natural release of DMT in the body.
Whoa. Okay, so connecting the breath directly to visionary states often associated with things like psilocybin.
Exactly. And specific styles are mentioned as examples, like Wim Hof.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Or holotropic breathwork, even something called Panama breathing. Different techniques, but the underlying principle seems to be using breath as a powerful tool for shifting consciousness.
So the claim is pretty bold then. Breath isn't just for life support, it's a built-in mechanism for accessing these altered or higher states.
That seems to be the core argument. These states aren't created by an external substance, they're already there, latent, and breath is one key to unlocking them.
Okay, that's fascinating. Breath as a primary tool. What comes next?
Well, moving from the very physical act of breathing, the next focus is on silence. Or maybe more accurately, stillness.
Meditation territory.
Sort of, but maybe a specific kind. It's not just about calming the thoughts, letting them drift by. It's about actively silencing them.
Silencing them completely. That sounds challenging.
It does. The language used is like stepping outside the mind, letting the internal chatter rot away.
Letting it rot away.
The goal seems to be reaching what's called a field beyond thought. That space of pure awareness, perhaps.
The field beyond thought. And this is presented as another direct route to that state we're discussing.
That's the idea, that this mental silence is the state, or at least a gateway to it.
And interestingly, it mentions using sound to help achieve silence. That seems a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, it does at first glance. But the suggestion is using specific sounds not as distractions, but as focusing tools to quiet the internal noise.
Like what kind of sounds?
Things like specific frequencies, 432 hertz or 963 hertz are mentioned, or even just simple white noise.
Huh. So the sound sort of anchors the mind, allowing the internal chatter to subside.
That seems to be the principle. Using an external constant to help achieve internal stillness. A tool to get you to that silent field.
Okay, so we have breath, the physical anchor, and silence, the mental stillness. What else?
The third major pathway discussed is about the heart. Shifting the focus of awareness from the mind to the heart space.
Heart coherence, that kind of thing.
Exactly that. It actually makes the point that psilocybin often inherently drops people into that state of heart coherence.
Okay, so again, it's like if the substance does that, how can we do it intentionally without the substance?
Precisely. And the method offered is, well, it sounds quite beautiful, actually.
How does it work?
It suggests thinking of someone or maybe something that you feel profound, genuine love for. Really accessing that feeling. Then you breathe into that feeling right there in your chest, in your heart area.
Okay.
And as you breathe, you consciously focus on expanding that feeling. letting it grow, radiate outwards, fill your whole being.
So you're actively cultivating and amplifying an emotion, a high-frequency emotion like love centered in the heart.
Yes, and this state, this heart-centered awareness, is described using terms like fifth-dimensional awareness.
Fifth-dimensional awareness, wow.
And it also gives it a very simple, very grounded label. That's home.
Home, meaning like our true state, our natural resonance.
That seems to be the implication, a state of pure presence, connection, and high vibration that we can access directly through the heart's intelligence and feeling. It's presented as a fundamental return.
This is really painting a picture of internal tools we all potentially have: breath, silence, heart.
Definitely. And beyond these specific dedicated practices, there's also a broader theme woven in.
Which is?
It's about integrating this heightened awareness, this high frequency, into everyday life. The idea of sacred living.
Sacred living. So not just practices you do for 10 minutes, but how you live moment to moment.
Exactly. It's about approaching everything as if it were sacred, treating the mundane as meaningful.
What kind of examples does it give?
Things like eating slowly, really tasting your food, being present with it, loving fully without holding back.
Okay.
Praying, but maybe not in a formal religious sense, more like a personal communion or expression of gratitude. Even washing the dishes.
Washing the dishes as sacred.
Yeah, like turning it into a ceremony. Being fully present with the water, the soap, the act itself, rather than rushing through it thinking about something else.
So the point here is, if you infuse your whole life with this kind of presence and reverence,
then maybe you don't need a specific event or substance to experience that sense of the sacred or expanded consciousness.
because your life becomes the ceremony.
That's the essence of it. Your daily existence becomes the practice, the pathway back to that state of connection and high frequency.
If we take a step back then, all these methods, breath, silence, heart coherence, sacred living, they're not just random techniques, are they?
No, they seem to be presented as interconnected ways to achieve a similar underlying goal. Raising your personal frequency, maybe, or returning to it, clearing out the noise, the stress, the blockages that obscure our natural state.
So it's suggesting that this high-frequency state, the one sometimes accessed through psychedelics, isn't unnatural.
Quite the opposite. It implies it's our birthright, our default setting maybe, that just gets covered up by, well, modern life conditioning, trauma.
And these practices are direct ways to peel back those layers and reconnect.
Yes, direct roots back to ourselves, back home, as the heart coherence practice puts it.
You know, if you find this conversation resonating, please consider sharing it with others who might benefit. Spreading these ideas helps support this exploration.
Good point.
So the big takeaway seems to be a radical shift in perspective. The power isn't in the external thing.
No, power lies in practice, in presence, in consistently showing up for these internal methods.
It's about actively becoming that state you're seeking rather than waiting for something outside of you to provide it.
Exactly. Which leads to a really provocative final thought that's implied here.
Cool.
It challenges you, the listener, to reconsider what medicine really is. Maybe the medicine you seek isn't something you take.
But something you learn to become.
Precisely. It nudges you to ask yourself, or maybe ask your soul, as it puts it, what do I need to remember right now to wake up?
Ask your soul.
And then listen.
Yeah.
Really listen. Because the answer it suggests probably won't be some booming voice or dramatic sign.
No.
It's more likely to be subtle, found in the quiet space after a deep, conscious breath, or in the stillness you cultivate when you manage to silence the mental chatter just for a moment.
Or maybe in that simple, warm feeling expanding from your heart when you focus on love.
Exactly. It's an inside job. Accessed not through a single event, but through the daily, dedicated, sometimes difficult, but ultimately rewarding practice of returning to these internal anchors: breath, silence, heart, presence.
A profound shift from seeking externally to cultivating internally definitely gives us a lot to think about.